Hello and welcome to the Sephirah Center of Shamanism. My name is Luke, experienced mentor and practitioner of the shamanic and occult sciences. On this channel, we break down all things relating to the ancient technologies of shamanism and the occult, bringing them into balance with the modern psychology and deep psyche so that you can effectively integrate these sacred teachings and practices into your day-to-day lives and get real tangible results with them. Today, we're going to be talking about shamanic death and rebirth, what it is, what it looks like, and why it's an essential process to go through in the modern world. So if this is something that you are interested in, then definitely stay tuned. So, shamanic death, quite a complex and highly personal process to undergo. Okay, this is a very drastic form of transformation. Okay, shamanic death essentially refers to the process of deconstructing the layers of the false self being the personas that we have created to make sense of the chaos. Okay, when we crack these layers of the false self, what lies underneath is the essence of our authenticity and truth that we have learnt is not safe to feel. So, in essence, shamanic death is the process of deconstructing those layers of suppression so that we can grow into closer alignment and harmony with the true essence of our soul. Okay, so to really understand the purpose of shamanic death, we need to look at the cycle of creation and the cycle that nature goes through in terms of the four seasons. Okay, so nature is born, everything spawns. Yeah, in spring, everything spawns, everything is born. The summer is the process of the nature experiencing itself, okay, experiencing what has been birthed. Autumn is the process of death and decay, where that life cycle has come to an end. So what has been born has to die to clear space for something new. The winter period is the process of integration, yeah, before the new is born. Okay. The cycle of creation and destruction is something which is present in all aspects of the cosmos. Yeah. Creation and destruction, death and rebirth. It has to come in those cycles. Okay. It also exists in the polarities of the cosmos as well. We have the positive polarity being the light matter, the pure awareness. We also have the negative polarity, which is the dark matter. Yeah. The dark matter is the force of deconstruction in the universe, whilst the light matter is the force of order. Yeah. So both currents exist within us, so we need to embrace both. Okay. Practices such as shamanism are there to essentially help us reconnect with the cycle of nature. Now, that doesn't just mean going and hugging a tree. Yeah, what it essentially means is shifting your consciousness, your lifestyle, your way of being back into the natural flow that nature goes in. That is creation, experiencing, dying, integrating, and being reborn. Okay, so because nature and the cosmos is in that continuous cycle of creation and destruction, that continuous cycle of death and rebirth, it's not something that ends. So that is what we need to shift back into harmony with, and that is what practices such as shamanism are really there for, to help us shift back into the natural flow of life and death, creation and destruction. Yeah, balancing the polarities within us, balancing order with chaos, masculine with feminine. Okay, it's a path of balance, essentially. Yeah. So when nature needs to die, when it needs to deconstruct, it allows its old layer to shed. Yeah, much like a snake that needs to shed its skin. whenever it needs to grow. In order for the snake to grow effectively, it needs to shed its layer of skin. Yeah, the idea is that the snake doesn't just leave a scale on and think, oh yeah, I'm just going to leave it on just to see what it looks like. Yeah, it sheds everything all at once. Okay, and that is what the process of shamanic death is. So, what does that look like for a human being? Yeah, the reason why we have to go through shamanic death is because we have personas that we have created to make sense of the chaos that we have experienced in our lives. Okay, these personas essentially shell our truth and authenticity. How that essentially works is that when we experience trauma as children, we learn because we have no separation. We haven't got a fully developed ego yet, so we can't separate ourselves from what's going on. So we are naturally going to conclude that everything we are experiencing is our fault. Okay, at which point we learn very quickly that it is not safe to be in that natural state of self-expression, whatever that may look like for that individual child. Okay, so to put it simply, we have the child, which is the pure essence of the soul. Trauma comes in, fragments the child, okay, causing the child to then become stuck, or that essence of the child anyway, to become frozen in that trauma, okay. So the child's needs are not met. We learn that it's not safe to embody those child parts in our world and in our day-to-day lives. So we build a layer of skin around them, or a shell around them. That shell is the persona. Yeah, the persona that is associated with how we have been taught to function in our world. Okay, so we essentially learn through the trauma that it is not safe to be in our soul's essence. And we actually learn to associate danger with being in our soul's essence. Yeah. So we build that persona around the child to essentially encase it. Yeah. What then happens is that because we then build these personas out of obligation, because we feel that it's how we need to behave in order to function in the modern world, yeah, we then end up building our lives based off of obligation. Yeah, so we end up defining these false identities, what we call the false self, and then living our lives by them. Yeah, what that often looks like is that it often looks like a lifestyle that is built completely out of obligation. Yeah, completely out of how we feel that we need to be in order to function in our world, and then completely neglecting the needs of the inner child and our soul in the process. Yeah. So the process of shamanic death, what that looks like for a human being is breaking the layers of those personas that we have created to make sense out of the chaos. Yeah. It can be a painful process. Yeah, because the idea is that if we are to really align to what our soul is really here to do and become a clearer vessel for our soul, become a clearer vessel for our truth and authenticity, we have to break through that layer of suppression and then learn to meet the needs of our inner child. Yeah, it's not always an easy process. Yeah, because when we break those layers of suppression, some very deep, quite primal parts of our inner child can start to come to the surface. And it's very normal to start to really notice how deeply upset and unhappy these child parts have been for an extensive period of time. At which point we then need to learn to integrate them. Yeah, it's very similar to the process of soul retrieval. Yeah, soul retrieval refers to the process whereby you journey into the underworld, essentially into the formative plane, into the unconscious, to essentially collect the missing fragments of the soul that have been detached through traumatic experiences in order to bring them back to its source. But what are those soul parts? Those soul parts are essentially pieces of the inner child, pieces of the soul's truth and authenticity. Yeah. So when we perform a soul retrieval, we are actually reattuning the client, or if you receive a soul retrieval, you are reattuning yourself to child parts that have been detached and neglected through trauma. Yeah. So when we undergo a process of shamanic death, we then need to learn how to meet the needs of our truth and authenticity and hold those child parts and make them feel safe. Yeah. Make sure they feel safe so that we can start to bring them back into our conscious reality. Okay. It's a significant process. Yeah. And is a process that often forces one to be honest with themselves. Yeah. To be honest with themselves and really take responsibility for these child parts. Yeah. The reason why shamanic death can be such an uncomfortable process from time to, well, I'm going to say from time to time, but the reason why it can be such an uncomfortable process is purely because when we break that layer of suppression, we are breaking down a layer of our coping mechanism. Yeah, so when we do that, we can become aware of coping mechanisms, things that we attach to in order to minimize the damage. Okay, at which point we then need to embrace the feelings of the inner child. Yeah. So when those uncomfortable feelings start to come to the surface as a result of breaking that layer of suppression, we have to welcome those feelings. We cannot get rid of them. Yeah. The worst thing that the New Age has imprinted or programmed people with is the idea of having to be positive all the time. The idea of having to be love and light. You're basically just being gaslighted. Yeah. Because when has that ever worked? Realistically? When has sticking to positivity, when has sticking to love and light ever actually worked? Yeah. The key is to feel. You have to feel your emotions. It's the only way to integrate them. So, shamanic death is a process that requires you to surrender to your child parts and start to meet their needs as an adult. Yeah. So, as that happens, often, yeah, you can start to tap into repressed anger, repressed rage. When the repressed rage starts to come to the surface, that's when it gets really interesting. Because often rage is the most repressed feeling in the human body underneath pain. Yeah. So that means that when those parts that are deeply angry and are holding on to so much repressed rage start to come to the surface, it's very easy to then try and latch on to a coping mechanism. Yeah, which is essentially the process of going to the shattered pieces of the persona that you have already shattered and trying to put it back together. Yeah, in other words, you're then trying to neglect the child even more by trying to stop yourself from feeling angry. Yeah. So if you try and stop yourself from feeling angry, yeah, or you're thinking, why am I feeling this? You are neglecting your inner child. Yeah. You're neglecting your inner child if you are constantly trying to focus on feeling better all the time. Yeah. Because those child parts just simply want to be seen and acknowledged. Yeah. And they want to have their needs met. And then if you're wondering why they are expressing themselves through these uncomfortable emotions, then you are responding in the same way that your parents have to you. Okay. So shamanic death is a continuous process. Yeah. And it comes in waves. Yeah. The deconstruction process has to be embraced when we have outgrown a layer of our identity, at which point we need to let it go. Yeah. Once we've let that go, and once we've embraced that process and harmonized the part, then a new order will establish within your field that is in closer alignment to your soul's truth and authenticity. Okay. And then guess what? It will happen again. Yeah. You will grow into that new role and then you'll shed another layer of that skin. Have to embrace and feel the parts that are underneath that. And then you will move into a new state of order. Yeah. So you're literally going to be transitioning between order and chaos. Yeah. Growing closer and closer to your authenticity as you go. Yeah. The medicine wheel is an amazing way of referring to that, the four cardinal directions. Yeah. Holding the essence of the four elements and the four seasons. Yeah. That is literally a map for death and rebirth. Yeah. creation, experience, dying, rebirthing, and it's just continuous. A continuous process of death and rebirth. Yeah. So why is it essential? Yeah. What I'm seeing with my clients and students, what I'm acknowledging and what I can see, and the theme that I'm noticing here is that that people are almost moving into a place in their lives at this moment in time where they have to align to their soul. Yeah, and 2025, as when this video is being filmed rather, 2025 is the year for that. Yeah, it's the year where we have to allow ourselves to become the ash in order to rise from the ashes. Yeah, it's the process, the year of the serpent, where we have to shed our old layer of skin. Okay, so as things progress, more and more people are going to be pushed into a process of shamanic death because it's an initiation from their soul. Yeah. It does not need to be a painful process. Yeah, I will emphasize that. Yeah. It's only a painful process if we resist it. Yeah. In other words, if we do not want to let go. Yeah. So the message of this video encourages you to ask the question, what are you holding on to that you have outgrown? Are you attaching to an old state of order that you have long outgrown? Are you attaching to a role that doesn't define you anymore? And do you need to let it go? Yeah. Do you need to shed that old layer of skin? Do you need to shed that old layer of skin so that you can grow into a newer and much more authentic version of you? Yeah. And most importantly, how can you start meeting the needs of your inner child? Okay. So shamanic death and rebirth is a very significant process of transformation. Yeah, and is a process that many people are going to be pushed into by their soul if they continue to neglect themselves and instead take on these toxic personas and identities just to function in their world. Okay. So I think that's just about everything that I wanted to cover in this video. Okay. This is a very interesting process and is a very interesting time to be alive and to be observing what is going on. Okay. I myself offer many different programs, many different training programs to assist you in these processes. Yeah, if you're feeling called to the shamanic or occult technologies, then I will leave links in the description. Okay, I also have a membership program for those who are wanting to join a community, join a community and receive different levels of teachings each month. So there are many different options that you can explore with me, as well as many other mentors. Okay. But what I will say is that it's important to find someone that you resonate with, but also somebody who will not validate your coping mechanisms and somebody who will tell you as it is. Yeah. To help you process and integrate your shadow and meet the needs of your inner child. Okay. So that's all for now, guys. If this video was of value to you, then I'd really appreciate a like and a subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.